So I contrast Superman with a completely different world. This is, of course, Hello Kitty, or Kitty-chan, not strictly an anime character, of course, although there is an animation some of you may have seen featuring Kitty-chan, who is herself a perfect example of the Mobius strip, or Mebius strip. She's now 35 years old, I think. Hello Kitty is 35 years old. Her real name is Kitty White, and she's English. So one of the foremost icons of Japanese popular culture internationally, Hello Kitty, whose Sanrio's store in Times Square in New York now routinely outsells any of their stores in Tokyo. So she's a massive international success story in terms of the commodification of Japanese pop culture. Kitty-chan is actually an English girl, or a girl cat. But she's also a perfect example of Superflat, line-based minimalism. When I interviewed the creators of Hello Kitty for my book, two women who created Hello Kitty, they proudly said to me that, I said, how would you define Hello Kitty? And they said, 16 lines and no mouth. Now, the question arises, of course, why does Kitty have no mouth? Does anybody have any theories on why Hello Kitty has no mouth?
I think I read your book.
You read my book?
Yeah, so I'm cheating, but
You're cheating.
like, I guess for infantilization, like, it makes it cute for her to have no mouth. I don't know, I read that somewhere. I don't know if it's in your book.
I think that was someone else's book. It's okay. I like to support my competitors. Yes, well, there certainly is an infantilization, so that's not off at all. I mean, obviously there's a childlike nature to a character with oversized eyes and no mouth. In fact, oversized eyes are evolutionarily part of what is supposed to make the adults in the relationship take care or protect the infant or the child creature. But their answer was that Kitty has no mouth because she should feel like you do. Now think about that for a minute. She should feel like you do. And this is a key factor in the appeal of this minimalist, line-based aesthetic. And Kitty-chan may be the apogee or the purest example of this. What they meant was when you see, let's say you have a Hello Kitty at home on your sofa or sitting in your bed. If you come home from an extraordinary day, you aced all your exams, you had a great date, you had a fine meal, you just learned that, I don't know, your bills are all paid. You come into your apartment or your dormitory room or your house, and Kitty looks up and she feels great too. You look at her and she feels great, looking back at you, staring back at you up from your sofa. She feels fantastic. It was a great day for you, it's great for her. She loves it. You come back after a lousy day where you've received 2 Fs, or the car broke down, it's rainy, the sole of your boot fell off, and you arrive at your house or your apartment and look at that face. She sympathizes. She feels sorry for you. And she feels bad too. And you guys can curl up together on the sofa with a pot of tea and watch Lost or 24. The idea being that your visual cortex, you're projecting, obviously, onto the few carefully selected lines that you see up there, an emotional relationship and an emotional sensibility. You are, in effect, filling in the gaps. Now, this is not just true of Hello Kitty. I was fortunate and honored to be able to interview Hayao Miyazaki, the great sort of animator genius, in California a couple of months ago. And when I spoke to him about hand-drawn animation, and he cited something he's written about before, which is that With the hand-drawn animation, traditional style of creating 2D or limited animation, the audience senses the minuscule imperfections in movement. In other words, it's not computer graphic, it's not computer generated. So the movements may be a little bit quirky, not perfectly smooth. And the audience can feel the spaces in the imperfections. And when the viewer feels that, he or she then projects and fills in the gaps and feels an interactive pleasure in so doing. This is not exclusive to visual art either, of course. Many acoustic musicians will tell you that one of the differences between hearing a synthesizer play the beat or play the music and hearing an actual live player playing, is that you can hear the faint, slight, minuscule imperfections in the human performance, and that gives you a kind of pleasure. Your imagination can enter into the experience and actually interact with the aesthetic experience, instead of being oppressed by a perfect, completely filled-in illustration. Again, think of this next to Superman, where the artist is clearly trying to give you a photorealistic physical presence. And here, where Kitty is almost a kind of perfectly blank slate with only the key points filled in. So you get to experience those features. Another perfect example is Pikachu, and I use Pikachu because, again, Pokemon is a big part of the Japanamerica story, in part because the executive producer and creator of Pokemon, not the original creator of Pokemon, who incidentally was a high school dropout, and who might even be called Hikikomori today. He dropped out of school, he was very isolated, Tajiri Satoshi, and he created the original idea for the Pokemon story. But Pikachu was the brand character, and the goal in coming up with Pikachu was to create an image, or a character image, that you could identify even if you only saw its outline. Even if you only saw the silhouette of Pikachu, you would immediately know what it was and what it is. And you can see, of course, again, it's not terribly sophisticated illustration, but it is very much line-based. If you look at the outline of that figure, from the light and bold tail to the two pointy ears, even without the blushing cheeks and the button eyes, you would know that was Pikachu. And incidentally, on a side note, Pikachu now soars high above Fifth Avenue alongside Snoopy and Bullwinkle in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is probably the most American of festivals that we celebrate, Thanksgiving Day. And I think it's a wonderful sort of Japan-American Mobius strip irony that while there have been generations of young children in Japan, including today, who firmly believe that McDonald's is a Japanese hamburger joint, there are now generations of young American kids who, until they start exploring the story on the internet, really believe that Pokemon is an American cartoon. So that the tables have turned.